right, welcome back, everybody. HSC Podcast. Got Big Box Steve on the mic and the Big Smooth, fresh off the biggest comeback in NBA Finals history. I mean, we just have to start there because, I mean, obviously, you're a huge Knicks fan, and it had to be an emotional roller coaster of a game.
Well, I went radio silent after a few texts early and a few explicit words and everything. But what I learned about this team, I stuck with it, kept watching, and they found a way. This is what I've seen of, and I'm not going to say the Spurs because this is still a series and everything, but like when they beat Atlanta and Cleveland and Philly, is the Knicks don't give up,
Mhm.
and they will other teams to give up. And that's what happened in all those series, and that happened in game one. Spurs went out big. Knicks whittled it down,
Yep.
won the game. Uh, it almost happened like last night too, or last game too. That should be a sweep.
Yeah, should we talk? We just talked about this. You think about that. What would they have like a 5 or 6 point lead at halftime in game three, right?
Yeah.
So that yeah, you win that game, and then I mean this was amazing. When you talk about the Atlanta series for a second, that when they were down and they came back and they ended up going to overtime and winning that game, at that point when you were watching the Knicks, you're like, this team's built different.
Was that, you mean Atlanta or Cleveland?
Or Cleveland, sorry.
Yeah.
Cleveland. That was game one, Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
And so you're like you're like this team's built different because you just have watched them, destroy Atlanta and geez, the 50-point game, and like you're like, oh man, Knicks are really good, and then all of a sudden they're down. You're like, oh, what's going on? But then you watch the resilience that they came back with in that game, and exactly what you were saying about them willing themselves, but wearing down the other team enough to where they make mistakes. They feel the pressure. They're taking bad shots, forcing things. And when you watch the Knicks overall, they don't play great defense, but they don't play bad defense. They play really consistent, fundamental defense. And that's almost better in a sense than the up in your face. Because if you don't get the right refs, you could be getting fouls all the time. Where you've seen Castle games where he's fouling out or he's 5 fouls every game, and then they have to reserve him how he play him in the fourth quarter because he's always up in your face and bodying and things like that, where the Knicks are just playing pretty good fundamental defense.
Yeah. And then in that game, it's what we've said too. It's like you pick someone off the bench to be the game. And this one, it was the Alvarado game, right? He came in, he took the point handling away from Brunson, so Brunson didn't have to do everything. And that was the thing, because Castle would be up on Brunson the entire time. He'd have to work for everything. You bring in Alvarado, who is like a firecracker out there. He
Mm-hmm.
just moves.
Well, he's fast, first of all.
Yeah. And so then at the very end of the game, Brunson was like, okay, I'm feeling it now.
Yeah, he gets a little freedom, right? A little freedom to move around without the ball. He gets to come off screens or just in general, he gets that separation you can't get when you're handling the ball.
Right. And I mean, the biggest difference, and this is, the cat getting those two ridiculous fouls early basically took him out of the game. Because with Cat in, Wimby can't be as productive defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Because when Mitchell Robinson is in, Wimby can just stay in the middle. And there's no, but with Cat out there, you have to make sure.
Yeah, you have to extend the defense out to him where Mitchell Robinson really, you don't have to worry about anything on offense for him, right? You can just let him, as long as he's not getting alley-oop dunks, you're good.
Right.
Yeah, and Castle didn't have a very good game, and that's what also worries me about the Spurs right now. And from the beginning of the series, we talked about the Spurs being a little too young, or beginning of even the playoffs, where they're great players, but you see Wemby make mistakes at the end. You see him take some bad shots, but Castle, he goes hot and cold so fast. And if you're not getting drawn fouls, sometimes he's putting up pretty wild shots, which are not high percentage.
Right.
They also, they have Champagne. He's a streak shooter, so you can't always rely on him. He killed me tonight because I'm like, oh man, he's gonna make 4 shots. Nope, can't even make 4 buckets.
Well, and that's where I know, and who's really going to believe me because but I'm watching the game and the Spurs could not miss.
Right, they were hitting
Right?
everything at the
It was
beginning.
like, and I was like, okay, just keep it close because they can't do that the whole game. And that's what happened. And now I look at the final stats, and the Spurs shot 40% for three, but the Knicks shot 47%. So it's like, and the Spurs shot 42% from the field and Knicks 46%. So it came back down a lot.
Right, right. Because that's the NBA these just these days especially, but normally things are going to average out is what I've found. When you look at stats, shooting percentages, even guys regular PRAs or points, rebounds, assists, it always averages out. You have 10 this game, you're going to have 5 the next game if you're averaging 7. There's a lot of averaging. And so you're going to come back to earth on your shooting, like you said, and they did. And the Knicks just didn't get a lot of shots up in general in the first half. So, I wonder if they'll address that in the next game to where you got to get some shots up. You can't just waste possessions or use possessions and a lot of clock and then potentially, get down and then have to come back like that. That's the tough part. When you're down that much, you run out of time is the problem.
Right. Well, yeah, that was the thing is they were down like over 25, and I'm like, okay, just whittle down, just
Yeah,
whittle
you got
down.
to pick away at it. Yeah, but you
And
got
then
to get
like after the third quarter, it was like, okay, we get this down, get this down to like 15. Yeah, let's just keep going. And then it just, like you said, in this NBA, a few threes later, it's a game.
Mhm.
It reminds me, I'm not saying they're not that like the shooting wise, but remember like the Warriors back then, like they could go down by a lot with Steph and Clay, and then all of a sudden, boom, they come back because they could make all those threes.
Yeah. Well, on the other teams, teams don't use the clock, run plays down, even when they're up. They're coming down, they're still popping threes, and it's like, what are you doing? You got a big lead, like come down, use the whole 24-second clock, run some offense, try to get to the line, or get a good quality shot. But instead, you guys are just jacking up threes.
All right. And I don't know. So why? And I mean, the dude, like, I don't like him as a person. He kind of is a douche, but Wimby is a flat out stud, though.
Right.
Why isn't he getting the ball for the last shot?
That's nuts to me. The whole end of the fourth quarter, you got to be getting Wimby the ball, going to the basket, and making them foul at minimum, right? If I'm the Spurs, like that's my goal. My goal is either Wemby on the move towards the basket where he's either going to get a great look and maybe get an offensive rebound like he did all game, or he's going to get fouled.
See, it's like the LeBron James. LeBron James in his peak, just give him the ball and get out of the way, and he's going to drive to the basket and dunk or do something. Just give Wemby the ball and let him do something.
Right.
Because yeah, I'm like, it's so weird to see Cat driving right by Wemby. Why isn't Wemby driving right by Cat?
Right.
I don't
He,
know.
yeah,
It's one of those where he's so skilled that he forgets that he's like 7'4", 7'5".
right. too many ball skills. He's an outside player because he'll take the shot, from anywhere. Like he doesn't have to be inside the paint or, most of your big guys, they're going to want their shot in that area where he'll shoot it from anywhere.
And I mean, it pains me to say, but man, he'll shoot those threes and it's like a perfect shot. It's like a boom right through the net, like it just all net.
Yeah, fundamentally, he's got all the tools. I don't think, like we said before, he's maybe not their headspace yet because he's still super young. And this is a big stage. You're in the championship, you're playing the Knicks, you're in Madison Square Garden. But just in general, this is your first finals. It's not like the Knicks have been there recently, but their players are still a lot more seasoned.
Right. Well, and I know it's different, but Brunson and Bridges have two national championships from college. Hart has one. They all and they all played together. It's like it's like I equivalent it to a senior laden college basketball team going up against like a really talented freshman one and done team in like in the NBA in the March Madness, right?
Right.
The team that's like the season laden veteran, the senior laden veterans are gonna usually win those games. And I'm not gonna say it. I mean, this series, the Knicks are the better team.
100%.
A year or two from now, I'm scared of the Spurs.
No, it's hard to believe there'll be a better team than the Spurs in 2 to 3 years, given Harper, Wemby, Castle, and probably Vassell will probably stay too.
Right. Well, I think, yeah, well, you're gonna have to, so you're gonna put Harper's gonna be in the starting lineup next year.
Well, you got a problem with Fox coming up, right? Because you're going to have to decide what you're going to do contract wise long term with him. Do you really want to pay him a super max
Right.
when you got Harper?
Right. And
Fox,
I know it's hard because like I like Fox. I really liked him when he was the
yeah,
Kings. And I just think maybe his hammy's still not. He hit some shots. I was surprised hitting some
yeah.
threes. I was like, what the dang it? But he didn't play bad.
No, but they still need him though as a distributor right now. Harper can become that and a scorer and be like a young De'Aaron Fox, right? When he was
Right.
with the Kings, because I don't know if you remember, people don't remember the stats he was putting up with the Kings were pretty impressive. And you're getting 20 points, 10 assists a game, or 25 points, 10 assists a game. That's pretty good.
Think about how much of a poverty franchise the Kings are. They had De'Aaron Fox, they had Halliburton, and they had Mike Brown as their coach.
Yeah, that's a pretty good team, though. I don't know. I don't know how well Halliburton and Fox go together, though.
Right. I mean, Halliburton could play the two.
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting how his career kind of changed there after the finals.
Well, he's still injured, so
Yeah. But that's, like I said, that's going to change the landscape of his whole career, right?
right. Well, it's like Tatum
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how he comes through it. And man, after the way they lost this year, Boston looks like they might be,
imploding.
yeah, not a good position for the future. Relying too much on their 3 point shooters, guys who just aren't real great. Like, Peyton Pritchard, I like him coming off the bench and in threes, but not a starting lineup.
Right. Well, that's the thing, and that's why the Knicks need to finish this out because tomorrow's not guaranteed.
No, not in the NBA anymore. Like it's anybody
Like
can
think
get
like this. Everyone was like, "Oh, Thunder are done. It's now the Spurs league." Right?
right. No, the Thunder got a long. Thunder are far from done. Um, I could see them beating the Spurs out, even when the Spurs are what we think are going to be the great team they are.
Right.
I still think OKC has got the nucleus to beat anybody in the next few years. But Chet has to play, that's for sure. But their big one is it's kind of like the Dylan Harper situation. It's like you got Jared McCain now, who you can build with, for OKC as well.
Right. And Williams.
Right. So we try to stay away from it, but since we're talking, we got to talk about the refs. We're going to see this everywhere, and it's okay because you won, so you don't have to be too upset about it. But here's the thing: I've seen it everywhere. Some people are doing it for clicks. I get it. We're like, oh man, look at these refs, they're so awful. But for those of us that are really watching the games and looking at the plays within the games, and knowing what's a foul, what's not a foul, or just being more of a student of the game, when you watch this, it is a little too obvious that, especially in game 3 in particular, but into game 2, beginning of this game 3, that there are fouls that were going towards the Spurs, for the Spurs, and not for the Knicks.
Well, let's bring up Castle forearming and running over Brunson.
Right.
No flagrant.
Obvious flagrant. Should have been a flagrant.
Mitch Robinson doing pretty much the same to Wemby this game. Flagrant.
Yeah. That feels like a little retaliation, so they may not call that. But the Brunson Wemby one in game 3.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you're right at the top of the key. It's not like that's not seen by most of the refs. It's the ball's in the area. You've got the biggest man on the court, or tallest man on the court.
The smallest.
Right. And that one, for me, that one's the hardest one because that's super obvious. I don't see how you don't call that.
You didn't even call a foul on that.
Right.
That's why it's kind of ridiculous. And that's where it's like, okay, I'll give Wemby all his flowers. He's talented and everything, but he should not be only being having 4 fouls the entire series. What is that?
Yeah. Given what they're calling against him, as far as people fouling him, he should have a lot more. If you watch the games and you watch where Wemby's he's so long that, yes, the ball, he's getting near the ball with his hand, but his elbows, his arms are hitting other people's arms and their heads and things like that. Those are fouls. I don't care if you're just bigger than them. It's still a foul.
Right.
So you can't just be like, oh, well, he was going for the ball. Yes, he was, but his elbow still hit him in the head, or, his arm still came across even, as he was going for ball.
Right. Well, then the big one was the OG foul that they didn't call, and then they were like, no, let's check that. Because that was like, oh my dude, that's what changed that game. Because they had no free throw attempts the entire second half until that was game 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. If you want to let them play physical, then let both sides play physical. Yeah. And that's my thing about it. And if you're going to call flagrants, call them both teams. Now, they did miraculously, after San Antonio was up by almost 30, they started actually calling a fair game.
Right.
Did you notice that?
It is weird when you watch the tale of the two halves, because, I mean, you talked about it before, San Antonio was just making a lot of shots, but now you're making shots and you're getting the calls. That's how you build a 30-point lead, right? You lose the 30-point lead when you start missing shots and not get the calls. And that's really what happened. Is there is a part that you have to look at and say, when you're not getting the same foul calls that you were getting in the first half, that's going to affect your lead, right? You're going to lose your lead. And now you pile on not shooting as well. It's hard to argue, and I would love to hear anybody in the comments that's listening, or we'll get some shorts out, I'm sure, around this, and we'll hopefully get some comments in that. Where what are the people's thoughts? Because obviously you're a Knicks fan, so everybody's gonna be like, oh, well,
maybe biased, yeah,
being biased, right? I'm not a Knicks fan. I want the Knicks win, because I picked them to win, and I support your team as well, but. Even it being as unbiased as I can look at that, I have to see it and say, look, they're not getting the same calls. And the refs are, ever since the second half of game 2, you can go back, watch the film. between the second half of game two, most of game three, and the beginning of game four, you will see a big disparity in what they're actually calling.
Right. And it's just like stupid stuff like Mitchell Robinson getting that technical foul when Wimby was like when they were both pushing each other.
Right.
It's like, just do a double tech then. Don't give
Right.
one person a tech, do a double tech. Or when Josh Hart got a technical for kicking Cornette after Cornette bulldozed him.
Yeah. Right. Which you're watching that play and you're like, man, you're like, oh, that's got to be a flagrant or something on Cornette, right?
No, and then
And they're
I'm like,
like, no,
what?
by the way, we're calling that on Hart.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of examples, and that's what I mean when I say we're going to see it on the internet because, like I said before, people are going to pull out, snapshots of things that will show the bias, that will show the disparity. But I will tell you, just watch the game and you can physically see it. You don't need the snapshots, right? You don't need, it's not like a gotcha moment. There's not politics where it's like they're gonna argue back and forth about who's right and who's wrong, and each one's gonna have their side. It would be hard to argue when you just watch it and say, okay, why aren't these calls going the same way?
Well, and then because I go down rabbit holes, and of course the Spurs apologists, the Spurs fans, are like, I mean, defending Wimby pushing down Brunson, and they're like, "Well, you should have. It will rewind the tape and watch all the times they've been holding on." I'm like, dude, I watched Brunson come up the court, and he's being hand checked and held onto the entire time.
Right. Well, he gets more bodying right now, and they're letting that go way more than they normally would during the season and most of the playoffs. Which again, you're like, wait a minute, these are fouls. Number one, they're actual fouls, but number two, these are fouls you've been calling the whole time.
Well, I love the one where they're like, "Oh no, offensive foul against Cat because he hooked Wimby's arm. Wimby's arm was on his body.
Mhm.
That's a foul. If he
Right,
hooks them, it's because he's in his area."
right. He's already committing a foul, and that's what you said. One of the things, though, you can let that go, or you have to call it both ways, like you said. Because if you're gonna then call it reverse, where you're gonna call them, hooking Wemby or bodying Wemby, there's a couple calls throughout the series where Cat's using his body, playing defense, but pretty straight up and down. Yeah, he's moving, but you're allowed to move when you're both going to the basket and you're the defender, right? It's okay if you're parallel,
All right.
running next to each other and you guys body. And he got a couple fouls there where then you go back and you watch tapes of Wemby playing defense and he's hammering people. Like he's putting his body into them, and then he'll use his arms to get the block. And you're like, wait a minute, that's a body foul. Why isn't it being called the same way?
And that's what I'm saying. Just all I care about is officiate like game one or the end of game four, where just if you're gonna let them play, let them play. Don't be like, oh, we're gonna let one team play and one team not.
Yeah, and man, I hate to look at things that way because what's beneficial for the NBA, which is a longer series. They obviously don't want to sweep.
But that's like, I mean, if you eye test wise, the Knicks are the better team.
100%. And they should be, right? San Antonio has a lot of talent, all the talent in the world, but they're young. We said this beginning of the playoffs. They play good defense, but they shoot streak. They're very streaky shooters. That's not a good combination usually.
Right. And I mean, nothing against Mitch Johnson, but he has nowhere near uh Mike Brown's experience.
Yeah. Well, and he actually, man, he calls a good game, a good strategy. But what I noticed, and maybe this is not his fault, maybe it is the young players and them not completely gelling, but they don't play within his strategy the whole game. You'll see flashes of it, or you'll see it, and you'll be like, oh man, they got a really good strategy going. And then 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later in the game, they're not doing it anymore. And I'm what it doesn't look to me like that's what Mitch Johnson is game planning. It looks like he's putting these game plans and then they continually are getting out of the game plan.
Well, and then in every third quarter, the Knicks start off stronger than the Spurs.
Yeah.
So that's obviously like adjustments. And also though, like I was watching and when the Knicks got it down to like 12, I'm like, dude, why aren't you calling a timeout if you're the Spurs?
100%. And
They were spiraling.
like we said before, why aren't you, and then later in the game, why aren't you getting it to Wemby, right? Why aren't you set a back screen for him, throw him an alley oop, get him
That's what
something.
I was afraid of. I was like, you can't stop it. They call it a foul every time he goes for an alley oop.
Yeah, right.
Even if you're just doing your job and having your body there, they're like, oh, foul.
Well, and it's going to be a foul most of the time because how do you defend it?
Right. Well,
You
yeah,
can't,
because you could throw it up.
yeah, top of the
Well,
backboard.
I didn't even remember, forget the back-to-back non-goaltending calls.
Oh yeah, I mean that the one was obvious. There is no way if you watch that,
The
you
Alvarado shot. Yeah.
live, it was obvious. You watch it in slow motion, you're like, that's unbelievable that they missed that.
And that's and then it's funny to me, like being a Knicks fan, so I'm biased, right? But then watching the broadcast and listening to the announcers go, I don't know why that was a foul, or why isn't that a foot? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's when you're like, whoa, okay, even so
Right. Yeah, you heard a lot of that in game three as well. Um, I was surprised too that because typically you're right, the announcers kind of stay away from that a little bit of they'll call things out, but they'll rarely get into the wait, we just saw that, why are they not calling this? Because they can't put that narrative out there either, right?
right.
They'll lose their job quicker than anybody.
Yeah.
But we have to talk about it, right? Because, and this is not, well, it is. Yeah, I'm going to say it. I at the beginning of this series, I thought the Knicks could sweep, and I said that not because you're a Knicks fan or I want the Knicks to win, but because when you break down the two teams, the Knicks are a better overall team. They have a little bit better depth, minus Dylan Harper, who is coming off the bench and giving them more than most players would. When you get deeper than that, guys like Keldon Johnson, they're doing nothing. Your Cornette's a role player, but still not doing anything. You're not getting a lot where, yeah, Alvarado will hit this game, Shamet will hit the other game, and McBride will probably come around next game. He'll probably have 10 this coming up or hit 3-4 threes.
Well, yeah, and then Clarkson. Clarkson came in like the
Yeah,
game before. Yeah, that's the Knicks. Yeah, with the Spurs, it's your stereotypical playoff roster. You have Keldon Johnson, you have Harper, and you have Cornette. Cornette's just a body to give Wemby like 2 minutes as time to rest. Keldon Johnson was the sixth man of the year, but he's done nothing.
man, the whole playoffs he's not showed up. He had a couple of good games, I think, in Minnesota, but as sixth man of the year, you expect a lot more from him.
Right. Yeah, and then I guess like Dylan Harper's taken over the sixth man role,
Oh yeah.
obviously. But that's the thing with the Knicks, you don't know who the sixth man is going to be. Like today it was Alvarado. Game before was Clarkson. Then it was Shamet. You know,
Well, the problem with the Knicks is that if those guys, all three, all four, even make shots, you can't stay with them at all. You're going to get blown out. So you got to hope that they have only one of them has a good shooting game.
all right.
So overall, though, that's what I mean. The team wise, it has nothing to do with who you like or dislike. At the beginning of the series, you saw which team was a better team, and it's definitely showing throughout the series. There's flashes of it where you're like, oh my gosh, they were down 20. What, you know? But again, there's circumstances that happen. Like you said, they shoot well and they get some calls going their way, and it spirals. The Knicks have showed the resilience, and it's a little early to, like you said, it's still a series, but man, they're in good shape.
You know,
Well, we'll see how that plays out. I think officially I picked the Knicks in five, but
right.
I said it could be a sweep if they get game one. But my initial pick is still in play, and then you guys are obviously still in play at game six,
Yeah.
which still might be more likely, right? It's hard to believe the Spurs go home, lose game five, but it can be demoralizing. You lose a game like this,
Well, you know what happened to Cleveland? Like after they lost that
yeah,
game, it was kind of like, and now to be down 3-1. I mean, stranger things have happened, but you're a
not
young
very often.
team.
There's not very many 3-1s, right?
Yeah,
Is it still that there's no 3-0 comebacks? Is that still a thing?
I think, I
Because
think so.
I feel like 3-1 is really a low percentage of comebacks as well. I guess the biggest thing is for the Knicks, maybe you want to close it out in game six, but
Okay, so there's only been one 3-1, and that was when the Cavs beat the Warriors, because the Draymond Green got suspended, and
right. So
so
that's a
there's
pretty
only
low
been
percentage.
one.
I didn't know it was that low.
But we'll see, because Wimby is one flagrant away from being suspended.
Yeah.
But I guarantee they rescind the one he got today.
Yeah,
I
they have to.
guarantee they're not gonna give it a chance for him to get another flagrant.
No, because that's the problem. If he loses his head, they get a flagrant. Now the series is over. Their viewership's over. The
All right.
season. Yeah. They're gonna want to stretch this out as much as they can. The reality though is, like I said, if even in San Antonio, the problem is if the Knicks shoot well, the Spurs can't beat them.
Yeah. And I mean the Knicks haven't shot their best yet.
Right. That's what I mean. And that's when that happens, if that happens in the next game, or even if it goes to game six, you it's an automatic loss almost.
I mean, and we haven't really talked about him, but he's been the unsung hero, and that's OG.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what I love about OG is he doesn't care about Wimby. He will attack him.
Hmm.
And that was the thing that, the Mitch Johnson messed up on. He's like, you doubled Brunson, but you left OG open, and got that offensive rebound to win the game.
You got to look at his defense too. Look how many shots he's blocking a game.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why you traded for OG.
Yeah.
That's why, I mean,
Because he was averaging, or he was getting two on a pretty regular basis. He had at least one tonight. I remember. I think he might have had
yeah, he
two.
had one block, one steal.
Okay, so he had one again tonight, but then like the previous few games, yeah, he had two multiple games. So he's playing good defense as well.
Well, this is the thing. He had 33 points, 10 of 15 shooting, 7 of 9 from three.
Yeah, that's a killer. He won the game for him.
Yeah.
And not just the tip, because when everybody else wasn't performing, he was.
Right. Yeah, because he was like I mean, okay, Alvarado was 2 for 3 from three, but everyone else besides G 7 and 9, Brunson was 3 of 7.
Hmm.
So it was OG was the one that got half their threes.
Yeah, and Alvarado's didn't come to the second half. He didn't. Those both were in the second half.
Right. Yeah. And then Shamet, McBride, and Clarkson were combined 0 for 7 from three.
Yeah. Well, and while we're talking about this, though, what's going on with McBride? Or not
I don't
McBride,
know.
not Miles McBride,
Bridges.
Miles Bridges.
I just think he's not getting, I mean, yeah, he's just not shooting well. He was shooting like 80% the whole playoffs. I don't think maybe it's the rough play. Maybe he just can't handle the.
Yeah, he needs a little bit more freedom.
Well, and he is a jump shooter, like a mid-range, so it's hard with Wimby because Wimby could freaking his
Right.
wingspan is so long he could get box shots. Um, and then they Alvarado was the hot. It was like the other game where they took in the Cleveland series when they come back. They took Hart out, right, for
Okay.
Shamet.
That was a
And
chill.
then this game come back, they're like, we're running the hot hand as Alvarado. So they
Right.
left just on the bench. And I get it. I mean, you go with your hot hand. Now watch, this will be Bridges' game. And then this
Right.
next game, he'll get like 30.
Well, because that's the other problem. You don't know who's going to get it, and that makes for a dangerous team when any of those can come in and be the hot hand, and you have to guard them all. Castle gets in foul trouble. Fox, he's a decent defender. He's not the best. Vassell is just up and down, especially with his defense. And you still have enough players.
Champagne's streaky.
Yeah, well, shooting especially, but he's also a little streaky as a player where he's a confidence guy, in my opinion. He's either going to be good or horrible.
Right.
So when he misses shots, he misses a lot. When he makes shots, he makes a lot.
Right. Well, that was like what was that game one where he had like six in the first half?
Six
Was that?
threes, yeah. Jeez,
Yeah.
what was that?
And then he didn't do anything the second half.
And he score again.
And that's the thing. And that's what the Knicks have learned. We just weather the hot shooting because they're gonna come back down. And the averages will come back down.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what happens here. Game 5 coming up. That's not till Saturday, right? So they got a 2-day delay. They come back to San Antonio. Again, I still think they will close them out. But if they don't, at least they get to come back to New York. So
Get
we'll
it
see
done.
how
Just
it
get it
plays
done in
out.
five. Just get
What's
it done.
that?
Just get it done in five. I don't want to. Between from Monday till today, I've been just in a depressed, bad mood. Up until an hour ago.
Oh man, what a rough game that was. But you get the win. And that's we've said this a million times. Doesn't matter how. It's about how many.
Yeah.
All
And that's,
right.
in my
Here, go
old
ahead.
age, I've learned don't give up. Just keep watching.
Right. Well, and it's we've seen that in sports our whole life. Is how many teams it's about the next play, right? The next step, making sure you're chipping away at leads, you're doing the right things, even when you're losing, because blowouts get real bad or happen when your fundamentals break down, when you stop when you stop running your game plans, when you stop doing the things that make you successful. And you see that in football, I think worse than basketball because it's so hard. You have to score touchdown 4 or 5 touchdowns is almost impossible sometimes, where 20 points in a basketball game is a lot more feasible. All right. Well, we'll wrap up a sports section there and what a win. So if you're a Knicks fan, you're probably feeling the same thing as the big smooth is tonight. You're you're happy, you wanted to get over, and you like can't believe that, man, what a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah. Because, like you said, you're like, do you really want to do this tonight? And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I'm numb.
Yeah. Then you come back and you get the win. So
Yeah.
all right, we'll see if the Knicks can close it out. And don't forget to catch the next podcast. If the Knicks do close it out, we'll give you a good wrap up of it. And man, it'll be on to football season not too long.
Yeah. Movie season.
Yeah, movie season too. Catch us this summer and stick around because we got a movie section coming right back for you. We'll see you.